Connective tissue. So connective tissue are named so because they have special function of linking and supporting other organs of the body. So their function is to link between different tissues. They range from soft connective tissue to specialized types. So what are the specialized types? They are cartilage, bone, adipose, and blood. We will see all these in detail. All the connective tissue except for blood, the cells secrete some structural protein which is called as collagen or elastin. So in blood tissue we do not have this elastin, whereas other tissues we have structural proteins which are called as collagen or elastin. These fibers, they provide strength, elasticity and flexibility to the tissue. The collagen or elastin fibers, they provide strength, elasticity and flexibility to the tissue. So they also secrete some polysaccharides which acts as a ground substance or matrix, that is a base on which the cells are there. So it acts as a matrix or ground substance. So connective tissue are of three types. One, loose connective tissue, dense connective tissue and specialized connective tissue. So when we come to the loose connective tissue, it has cells and fibers which are loosely arranged. The arrangement of cells and the fibers, whether it is made of collagen or the elastin, are arranged loosely. And it is found in a matrix which is semi-fluid. The matrix here is semi-fluid. So what example do we have here? We have areolar tissue which is present beneath the skin as an example for loose connective tissue. So this is our diagram for areolar connective tissue. So here you have the fibroblast cell. This is the fibroblast cell. And here you have the collagen fibers over here. And these are the macrophage cells, so which help in eating away the foreign particles. So this is your areolar loose connective tissue. So here it contains fibroblast cells. What does this fibroblast do? It will secrete the fibers. What kind of fibers? The elastin or the collagen fibers. The next type of tissue is adipose tissue. Adipose tissue is the second type of loose connective tissue which is also there just beneath the skin. So what is the function of it? The function of this is to store fat. So adipose tissue, it stores fat. So whatever nutrients that we already take up and they are not used by the body, they are stored under the tissue after converting it into fat. So that is about your adipose tissue. So let's go back and see our diagram. Here, adipose tissue. You can see there is a large area where fat is stored. So this is our adipose tissue. Next, we come to dense connective tissue. Dense connective tissue. So here you can see the diagram of dense connective tissue. Based on the arrangement of the fibers in the tissue, it can be dense regular tissue or it can be dense irregular tissue. In dense regular connective tissue, the collagen fibers are present in rows between many parallel bundles of fibers. So they are systematically arranged in a rows. So tendons which attach to the skeletal muscle, to the bone, and ligament which attach bone to bone are the examples of this dense regular connective tissue. So we have the example of tendons which connect the skeletal muscle to bone. You have muscle to bone, We have muscle to bone, which is the tendon connection, and bone to bone, you have the connection, which is ligament. So similarly, in irregular connective tissue, the fibroblast and the fibers, they are not regularly arranged. Okay, so the tissue that this irregular dense connective tissue is present just below the skin. And we'll come to the next one, which is cartilage, bone, and blood. So the next type of tissue that we are studying is cartilage, bone, and blood. So in the special connective tissue, we have first the cartilage. Cartilage is solid. It is pliable. What is pliable? Pliable means it is flexible and it resists the compression. So if you compress it, it does not get compressed. It resists compression. The intercellular material of cartilage is solid, it is pliable, and it resists compression. So the cells of the cartilage are called as chondrocytes. The cells in the cartilage are called as chondrocytes. These chondrocytes are enclosed in small cavities within the basal material, which is the matrix. These chondrocytes are there within the matrix, right? So cartilage later on, in the embryo generally it is of cartilage, but later on it gets replaced by the bones. So where are the cartilage present? Cartilage is present in the tip of nose, outer ear joints, right? And the adjacent bones of the vertebral column. If you take the vertebral column, between each vertebra we have the cartilage, and between the limbs and hands. So cartilage is not as hard or strong as the bone. So let us come to bone. Bones have a hard and non-pliable. It is not flexible, right? The basal substance or the ground substance is not pliable. So bones have a hard and non-pliable ground substance, and this matrix or the ground substance is made up of calcium salts and collagen fibers. Since this is made up of calcium salts and collagen fibers, it gives great strength to the bone. So the bone form the structural frame of the body. So bones protect and support softer tissues and organs. It protects and support the softer tissues and organs. So in case of cartilage, we have seen the cells over there are called as chondrocytes. And here in the bone cell, we have cells which are called as osteocytes. So these osteocytes are present in spaces within the bone. The spaces within the bone are called as lacunae. Okay, the cells of the bones are called as osteocytes, right? So these bones interact with skeletal muscles for movement, and within the bone you have the bone marrow where blood cells are produced. So the last special connective tissue is blood. Blood is a fluid connective tissue. Till now we have seen all solid connective tissues, and we have seen that all of them have fibers. But here in blood, we do not have the collagen fibers, right? So blood is a fluid connective tissue. What does it contain? It contains the plasma, it contains the red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. It contains the plasma, red blood cells, white blood cells, and the platelets, right? It helps in the transport of various substances within the body. Okay, so what have we learned till now? We have learned about connective tissue. Why are they called connective tissue? Why are they called connective tissue? Because they have functioning of linking and they provide support, right? They help in linking and they provide support to other tissues and organs of the body. So what are the types of connective tissue that we have seen? We'll see now one by one. The first one was loose connective tissue, right? The second one was dense connective tissue. And the third one was specialized connective tissue. Okay. Now, in the loose connective tissue, right? What did we study? We studied two types. One is areolar connective tissue and other is adipose connective tissue. In areolar connective tissue, we saw that the areolar tissue has, what all does it have? It has the fibroblast which secrete the fibers. It has the macrophages which are phagocytic in function. That means it eats away the foreign bodies, and the mast cells. So these are the three types of cells that we studied in areolar connective tissue. So adipose, what is the function of adipose? It has large spaces where fat is stored. So adipose tissue, it will store fat. Now coming to the dense connective tissue, we saw two types. One is regular and other is irregular, right? In regular connective tissue, the fibers are arranged in proper rows, parallel rows they are arranged. But that kind of arrangement we do not see in case of irregular dense connective tissue, right? So for regular connective tissue, we saw two examples. One is tendon. So tendon, it will attach what to what? Correct. It attaches muscle to bone, right? And what about the next one? The next one was the ligament, right? Ligament will attach bone to bone. Bone to bone. So irregular connective tissue, we have studied about skin. Irregular connective tissue, we have studied about skin. Now specialized connective tissue, we have seen, what all did we see? We saw cartilage, right? Cartilage, it is made up of cells called as chondrocytes. And then second, we saw the bone. Bone, it is made up of cells which are called as osteocytes. Osteocytes, right? Cartilage, bone. Cartilage is made up of chondrocytes. And then we saw about blood, right? So blood is a substance which helps in transport of different substances all throughout the body. So what does blood contain? It contains RBC, it contains WBC, it contains plasma, and it contains platelets. Let us now see some images which have the real, which will give you the real picture of all the connective tissue that we are talking about. So this is the areolar connective tissue, right? This is the areolar connective tissue, the loose connective tissue. So here you can see the fibers. These are the fibers called as collagen fibers. You have the macrophages. Macrophages are phagocytic in function. They eat away the foreign bodies. And this is the elastic fiber, and you have the fibroblast, which will give rise to the uh, fibers. And this is your adipose tissue. So you can see adipose tissue have very large space over here to store the fat. And the adipose tissue, the cells of the adipose tissue are called as adipocytes. Here we have two images, one for the regular connective tissue and other for irregular connective tissue. So you can see the arrangement of the fibers in the regular connective tissue. The collagen fibers are arranged parallelly in regular connective tissue, but you cannot see this kind of arrangement in irregular connective tissue. So for regular connective tissue, we have seen the example of ligament and the tendon. So irregular connective tissue, we have seen the example of, yes, you're right. We have seen the example of the skin. Okay. So here just an image so that you remember what is tendon and ligament. So what is tendon? Tendon binds muscle to bone. Muscle to bone binding is done by tendon, and bone to bone binding is done by the ligament. Ligament, bone to bone. So one more diagram for you to remember: ligament and bone. Sorry, tendon and ligament. Tendon, muscle to bone; ligament, bone to bone. So here is an example of cartilage. In the picture, you can see that the cartilage has cells which are called as chondrocytes. So chondrocytes are placed within the matrix in case of cartilage. So the bones have the lacunae or the spaces, and in those spaces there are cells which are called as osteocytes. So here you can see the spaces in which the osteocytes are present. So these are the osteocytes. And you have the central canal where the bone marrow is present. So the next one is your blood. So blood have a different type of cells. So one of which we have mentioned here is your platelet. So what does platelet help for? Platelets help when you get a cut. Whatever is helping you to heal, that is your platelet. You have WBC. WBC again is having different types of cells. That is, white blood cells are of different types. So with this we have completed the connective tissue. In the next part we will see our next tissue, which is muscle tissue.